So the area that is most frequently overlooked in dog training is those two elements of being calm and relaxed. So if you can also be efficient, calm and relaxed in your dealings with your dog, that is going to get you to a very good place. It's probably the place where most people should aim to be with their dog. That's any dog, particularly the case with a large breed dog. You might think or believe you need a guard dog, but actually you need a sensible dog. You need a dog that can comfortably become part of your family. You don't need a military grade canine if you've got a large breed dog. But anyway, those elements of being calm and relaxed, they are relevant regardless of whatever kind of dog you've got. During the rest of this film, which is going to be getting on for a quarter of an hour, it is totally unedited, so it's not going to be chopped around, so you're just going to see little highlights of this and little highlights of that. It's not chopped around. You'll see us working some of the residential dogs that we have in here for training on our Board and Train training course. You'll see a client working with their German Shepherd. Their dog has been in on the residential Board and Train course already, but now they are learning how to improve their own handling skills. But everything is based around this concept, especially when the dog is on the lead, of being quite calm and relaxed. So while we're at this concept of being quite calm and relaxed, just notice how quite calm and relaxed Maverick is in the foreground here, despite all of the stuff the lessons going on right round him. But he's actually been placed in a good old-fashioned downstay. It's one of the fundamentals of a really well-trained dog. You may not achieve this if you focus too much on place training. Place training won't always turn into a good, solid downstay because you will have focused too much on the crutch of the placemat or the place bed. Whatever the crutch is, the dog is associating it with the place object. So wherever I say the place is to Maverick, that's it. That's a downstay. He knows if I say down, it is until further notice. You're going to notice the guy with the German Shepherd in a moment. He's going to circle round one last time, and then he will put his dog into a down. He's going to stand with his dog, because that is the beginning of training a downstay. You need to be able to get your dog to lay down beside you for 5 minutes without constant intervention coming from you. So that's whatever it is. You shouldn't need to keep rewarding the dog because the dog will become dependent on the reward. So this dog will lay down here for a few minutes now, good few minutes. And you'll notice at a certain point, I'll encourage him to just lean across and just do a very gentle, quiet piece of praise, which will just be a touch, not enough to stimulate the dog and spoil the behaviour. You'll see Tom's going to do the stage behind the downstay now. He's going to get the golden retriever to sit there for a minute or two. So it's about switching off in a controlled position and becoming quite calm and relaxed and not depending on you constantly rewarding the dog. So we're talking about the chatter that you provide, your input. That can be verbal, that can be constant reward, constant intervention. So even positive intervention becomes chatter. Your dog will either become dependent on that chatter or it will become irrelevant to the dog. Either way, it interrupts and disturbs the learning process. So you have to really think about where you communicate with your dog, because you need the dog to not be reliant on your constant input. Have you ever heard that saying, less is more? Now, I believe if you are constantly communicating with your dog, you are in danger of becoming white noise, which your dog will tune out if you're not careful. So if you seriously reduce the amount of communication with your dog, that actually increases the potential and possibility that your dog is going to pay more attention. I remember reading an article in the Shooting Times, and this would have been in the very late 70s, early 1980s. And they were talking about different handling styles that different dog trainers, competitive dog trainers, field trialers had at the time. And one of them, and it always stuck with me, and it kind of came back again when I worked with the two head gamekeepers that I met in Yorkshire. So one of them was very quiet, and this article was again highlighting this one particular handler that was quiet, and that was his thought process way back then. And he won't have invented that, because he would have probably learnt that along the way or picked it up from other people. It was to be quiet with the dog, because the quieter you are, the person or the dog on the other end, they have to listen that little bit harder. So it actually increases the potential of that communication, because now when you say something or indicate something, it is worth listening to, and your dog will pay more attention to that particular communication. So something to bear in mind. So Tom's just moved off a little way with the golden retriever and then resettled somewhere else, just a little bit further on. But you'll notice Maverick's not moved, and the guy's German Shepherd hasn't moved either. So the German Shepherd is on the way towards being able to stay in a downstay with you not there. Then that'll be for another film or something. It will come later on that you'll see if you choose to follow us, of course. Otherwise, it's just down to chance. We're trying to sort of think about putting out films now that are real and unedited, not like highlights of bits and pieces. I think social media has enabled sometimes rather mediocre dog trainers to gain quite a tremendous profile, and they're not necessarily always as good as the people that are watching them think they are. You'll notice in a moment Maverick's just going to have a little bit of a stretch or a relax. Now, in my opinion, that's not worth correcting, because you've got to look at the dog's mentality. Is he being disobedient? Not really. He knows he has to stay in the down, but he just needs to just make a minor adjustment to his position. Like if you're sat in a chair for too long, you have to move within the chair to remain comfortable. So that was just a little stretch. So that's an observation there. We're not talking about micromanaging every last moment of a dog's behaviour. We're only interested in the dog being obedient, but not in the way that some people would associate obedience. It's an attitude. The dog has got a good attitude and he's doing what's required. We don't need to fuss over like little minor bits and pieces. So again, something else you should bear in mind when you're working with your dog. They're not machines, they're living beings. They have their own thoughts, processes and desires. You have to make laying down and staying in a position comfortable for the dog, physically and mentally. They need to learn to enjoy that. And how do they enjoy that? So let's talk about something else in dog training. So a typical Malinois like this, or Mallee, I don't know, anyway, a typical one of these, you'll see most trainers that are showing you or displaying their wares with one of these on social media or anywhere really, you will only ever see one of these hopping around, biting stuff, manoeuvring around in and around you, like doing sequences of behaviours, or working on a toy and they can do an out, but in order to achieve the out, they need to provide something immediately afterwards. So the training is not wrong. It's good. There's no such thing as a definitive right way and wrong way of training dogs. It's just different ways. So we're trying to show you how to produce a nice, quiet, calm, relaxed dog that will make a great pet family dog, which is what most people need. Now, when you're doing all of that other training that we've just described that the other trainers do, that is brilliant training. Nothing wrong with it. The reward there comes from chemicals released within the dog, like their adrenaline, like high energy rewards, biological rewards within the dog's own body. Now, if you manage to achieve this kind of downstay, you will actually get to the point where a different set of chemicals will become released within the dog that are also biologically rewarding to the dog, but they produce a calmer, more relaxed dog. So that's what I'm trying to show you, that there is a difference between the training that you do with a dog, and that's why you need to think about what you're doing with your dog during the training process. Some of the training that you're doing, if you're not careful or being led towards by another type of dog trainer, may inherently be designed to take you down the wrong path. You come to a fork in the road and you've chosen to go down the wrong route, and you would never be able to achieve this with the dog. Because if you go too far down that route, the dog's whole body is set up to only work with like the adrenaline based reward, biological types of reward within its body. So it's quite important that you work with the right dog trainers to get the kind of dog that you want. There is so much more to dog training. It isn't complicated, but there again it is. Because if you start doing the wrong things at the wrong times, then dogs will revert to natural behaviour patterns. And some of those are not conducive to living with within a normal pet household. So you do need to pay attention to the kind of trainers you're working with. Are they able to deliver the kind of dog that you really want to achieve? Because if they don't know how to deliver this kind of dog, that kind of thing will happen there. this dog didn't, the young puppy never did anything wrong there. That's just typical sheep. They have a natural herd flight instinct, and at a certain point in time they're going to turn tail, and then they run away, and their little tails and backsides just go chase me, chase me, chase me, and that's what the majority of dogs would do. So this is irrelevant maybe to you and your dog, but there again it isn't. Training, if you listen to social media too much, you'll think that there's only two types. There's positive, and then there's the other lot. Truly good trainers are always balanced trainers, because you do need to teach rules and boundaries. It's how you go about teaching and training those rules and boundaries. So it's this element that is probably the root cause of the conflict in dog training, or amongst dog trainers. It's competitive. So both sides are trying to get a competitive edge on the other side. Now, there always needs to be some negative element to dog training, because you have to communicate to a dog not only what you need, but you do need to be able to provide information to a dog that we don't need that bit. So that's where the negative is. We like to train a response to no, so that the dog is able to see no purely as information, so that we can just let the dog know we don't need that bit, or yes, we need this bit. Ultimately, it's all about being able to communicate with your dog, so that the dog understands what you require. And also, the training needs to be mutually beneficial. So we'll wrap this film up now with a couple of clips showing the dog prior to the training process. So this dog was quite well trained, but it was very reactive. And that was because the training process up to here was so based in constant reward, it left you with a dog that was still likely to react in a reactive way, in a reactive manner, because all your training was providing reactive rewards to behaviours that you required. So you maintained the dog in that reactive state of mind. So that's why right at the very beginning, this film was all about efficient, calm, relaxed behaviour patterns. Because if you overdo the training in the wrong kind of way, your dog will never become an easy dog to have as a pet dog. And that's why most people get their dogs.